Welcome to the Kyzen booth here at SMT AI. I'm joined by Tom Forsythe. Good to see you again, Tom.
Good to see you, Trevor.
Yeah. So, I mean, this morning at the conference, the keynote was, of course, on the EV industry, which is coming up pretty fast.
Rising, the sun is rising rapidly.
It's going to be here before we know it. But, you know, I want to start off by asking how it relates to the cleaning industry. I mean, it's a critical application, but the automotive industry has famously always tried to be no clean.
Well, but first and foremost, the automotive industry yearns to be reliable. And let's face it, the term harsh environment is simply another word for the automotive industry, right? I mean,
right.
The under the hood, applications in the internal combustion engine, the ICE engines. So, and what's happened particularly over the last 20 or 30 years, cars have become much more reliable. I heard a statistic, I'm not certain it's true, but I believe it is, that the average car in America is now 10 or 12 years old.
Right,
okay.
The majority of them are combustion engine vehicles.
And they're virtually all combustion engines. But 20 or 30 years ago, my guess is the average car wasn't 5 years old.
Right.
Well, how did that change? Well, that changed because the industry improved the reliability and longevity of the product.
Yes.
So there's this yearning, this purpose to have a reliable product that delivers the goods. And these same people are, not completely, but largely, the major players in EV. They're not necessarily the first rabbit out of the box, but, so they're bringing that mindset. Well, reliability is, automotive's been able to do it largely without cleaning in the traditional sense, but they're not doing high voltage stuff.
Right.
Okay. And they're not relying for the motive power of their vehicles on high reliability electronics.
Right.
So those are two very consequential differences between the traditional combustion engine platform
right.
and the new electric platforms.
Right. And so around these high voltage systems, which can be potentially dangerous if they get out of control, you would say it's pretty essential to clean.
Largely, yes. And it's also, remember, there isn't even commonality on what high means. Because with trying to get longer ranges and again, a better product for the consumer, well, higher voltages help that cause. Well, part of helping that cause is how do we solve that problem? How do we deal with that? Right. And that's where cleaning becomes a real value adder, because as you get into higher voltages, you have risks where shorts and malfunctions can not only be inconvenient, but they could be deadly.
Right, right. Now, are you talking about the argument between 24 volt and 48?
Or 480,
right,
or 1,000.
Right.
You hear
right.
lots of numbers of what's tomorrow.
Right.
Today's things are more moderate, right? But as this industry makes this gigantic strategic shift, I think it's far from clear what the cars 5 or 6 years from now, how they're going to be running.
Right.
Okay. As innovation happens and the industry learns, not only innovates but simply learns better. Does everyone go to 480? Does everyone go to up near 1,000 volts? Who knows? And what's some giant school bus or semi trailer going to be?
Yeah, I mean, the whole technology. I mean, it's first of all in school buses and semi trailers, the ones that are operating in Europe that are using renewable energy, they're typically using fuel cells. There's quite a lot of that over there, and that might be the way forward. But the battery technology, I think, fundamentally, is just not there yet.
Well, but it's progressing at a rapid rate. There's a lot of one of the things that the Western world, collectively has done over the last 20 to 30 years is you put a lot of resources on something and bring talented people together wherever they may live.
Right.
And we create and we innovate, and not unlike how NASA went to the moon, 60 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's a case of resources and talent. Now, we can't teach you or I to fly.
Right.
But if we're trying to solve an engineering or science problem, often we can get there. Right. Now, we haven't cured cancer, we haven't cured COVID.
Right.
But we've cured lots of other things.
Start off with a big statement, and eventually you'll get there.
Well, or just trying to move it because there's a clear resource thing here, right? There's no doubt that assuming the power grid is there and the charging stations are there, which is another challenge in this whole puzzle. Those are of of different challenges, but yet also large challenges.
Yeah.
There's a benefit if things can be renewable and still achieve the reliability and the usability that people are deem important, right? If electric vehicles would only ever run 100 miles, well, they'd be a niche market. Now that they're in this normal range, well, a giant percentage of the user group, their range is just fine.
Right.
Okay, so now it comes down to, well, how do I charge? Well, if I live in the suburbs and I've got a garage, well, I can solve my charging problem. If I live in a 50-story office building in Manhattan, the charging problem is more complicated.
Right.
So there are different dimensions to this that will get set up, and of course here in the U.S., there's been big funding bills that have been passed with clearly targeted funding of what, at least to me, sounds like an enormous number of billions and billions of dollars to try to facilitate some of this stuff, particularly on the infrastructure side, the charging
obviously
stations.
superchargers are going to put in, not the other ones, because 30 to 40 minutes is acceptable, I think.
Right, but then again, as you move into those, now those are 483 phase. That's not power that's on every street corner.
Right.
Okay, so I know from our experience with facilities around the world, most buildings that are not purpose-built to need that kind of power don't have it. Yeah. Okay, and it may not be on the pole. It may not be at the end of the street. Mm-hmm. And if it's not there, well, then it's not going to be in some charging station on that street, right? So how do those things get located? There's talk about examples where they're starting to put those in shopping centers and stuff. That's got to be designed in up front because shopping centers don't need power.
Right.
They probably don't have three-phase 480.
Right.
Unless maybe it's a grocery store or something that has a lot of chillers and refrigerators and things.
But there was a thing mentioned this morning at the keynote about putting them at dealerships.
Right, and again, those are places where the slow chargers, you'd think that'd be fine, but would the 480 really be there? So there's layers to this. It's like a Fabergé egg, right? There's layers to the dilemma, and it starts with a slow charger is better than no charger.
Right. It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
A fast charger is even better. Mm-hmm. But back to the case of, as the keynote speaker that said this morning, well, he was, the first few years he had an EV, he didn't have a charger at his home in the suburbs.
Right.
He had a charger at the office.
Yeah.
Where his car sat for most of the day. And a slow charge was just fine, and met his needs, right? So I think it's this whole idea of viewing what the petrol station is. A gas station is going to be a different thing in the future.
Yeah.
And habit changes. And habit changes for we, the people, tend to be traumatic.
Yeah. I think it's going to be.
We don't like change.
I think it's going to be. So anyway,
we'll get to a good place, but it'll be
right.
They'll be complaining.
All right.
They'll be complaining.
No, I think it's going to be full of challenges, Tom. But anyway, final question here: Is EV versus combustion engines? Is EV going to be good for Kyzen, or better for Kyzen than combustion engines?
Well, I think that from the we're largely electronics company, and the more electronics that get made, generally that's better for Kyzen. The more high reliability electronics get made are almost always better for Kyzen. The technology here, the reliability needs, we think EV is very much that high reliability electronics, and that generally means opportunity for us as long as we keep innovating and keep taking care of our customers and bringing new products to bear that meet these challenges, because as these challenges get resolved, well, those answers may create cleaning challenges, because cleaning, when electronics innovates, cleanability is never on the list.
True.
It doesn't stand in the way of innovation. They go, here we go. All right, you guys, get busy. So that's why we're here at SMTAI. That's why we stay engaged, why we try to know what's coming, so we can be doing our development work in parallel with those advances.
Yeah.
So when the technology is ready for the markets, we're ready to provide the cleaning solution along with that. So we believe EVs all but certainly good for the planet, and we also think it's good for Kyzen.
Good. Great. Well, let's hope it all evolves, smoothly.
Well, it'll be a journey. There'll be peaks and valleys and rainy days.
I'm sure there will.
But with a little luck, it'll be the destination will be a great thing.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best with it, and thank you for giving me your views on EV today.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Okay.